it's really important that I don't hit the wall. Obviously, it's important anyway because that will just slow me down. So a lot of the high level play will be trying to get as close to the walls as possible so that I get better racing lines. But if I hit it, that can be losing a few seconds each time, so something to watch out for. So we're going to get another downhill here. So this is the first track where we're going to be focusing on collecting Wumpa. So if I pick that box up, I can get the minimum of 5 and the maximum of 8 Wumpa from a single crate. I got quite lucky there, I got all 8. And basically, every crate will give you an amount of Wumpa, but you're guaranteed to have 10 Wumpa as long as you pick up 2 of those crates, because the most Wumpa you can have is 10. So obviously the minimum of 5, if minimum is 5, so 2 5s is 10. So you're guaranteed to get 10 Wumpa if you get 2 Wumpa crates. So every single piece of Wumpa you pick up adds to your speed. And then if you pick up 9 Wumpa and then 10 Wumpa, so 9 Wumpa and 10 Wumpa only give you the same amount of speed, but you get the maximum amount of speed boost that you can get just from picking up Wumpa. And some tracks it's actually beneficial to pick it up because it's such a more longer track. So this track we're looking at sort of 38, 37 second laps for lap 2 and 3. So it is quite a long track. The top amount of speed increase you get is, I don't remember the RAM value of the speed you get, but you actually gain about 2% speed increase, maybe a little less than 2%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's definitely worth it for the small detours that we have to do. So again, we're doing this downhill here. So we can hit this boost pad, hopefully I get it here. So you can actually get a second downhill there, and then you get this insane amount of speed there. So that's really tricky to get because it's quite inconsistent. There's a lot of very precise tricks in this game that save 1 or 2 seconds on every track, but they're very inconsistent in the terms that they're just so precise that you don't always get them every single time. So I was lucky to get that on that one. Basically what I did there is when I hit the ramp after, so when I hit the turbo ramp and then I jumped over, basically you can hit that second downhill and that can give you an insane amount of speed, and then from there I can just keep doing the hops and keep that speed up to the uphill. You'll notice I do the hops a lot. I do it when I have more speed than the game should give me, which is what we class as a speed ghost. So I do the hops to keep the speed from those downhills, but you can also do it if you're going up a hill, or if you just get more speed just from any other source where you've just got extra speed, you can just do a few hops. It doesn't slow you down but one thing a lot of new runners don't quite grasp immediately is that basically if you're hopping and you don't have additional speed, it doesn't make you go faster, it just reserves speed that you've gained. So it's not to be confused with something that makes you go faster, you simply just keep speed you shouldn't have. So this is the first track where we're going to have some annoying cycles. So the barrel cycles are pretty consistent lap 1, so we don't have to worry about them here. And then we're also going to get 8 speed ghosts off this wall. So that one gives us an insane amount of speed. It don't quite know how the walls work in this track, but basically that gives you pretty much the maximum amount of speed you can get from going downhill. So you can get an insane amount just from drifting up that wall. There's also an intended shortcut here, which I did on lap 1. You can just jump up there, cut the corner. There is a secret path if you go straight across the bridge, but that's just way slower to do. So we just cut the corner there. Again, we get a good cycle. So there is a wall there, so we got extra speed here, and then we want to get this one. So now I have a lot of speed again, and I'm just going to hop. It's a little, again, not quite luck-based, but I have to hope that I don't clip the top of the ramp when I'm doing those hops. You can't really control what part of your sort of hop chain you're at when you hit that ramp. So you can either get lucky and you just hop over it, or you can get unlucky and you actually hit the ramp. If you hit the ramp, you'll just get sent flying upwards, and unfortunately you will just lose all your speed at that point. So it's really good to avoid it. That was a close cycle, but again, I was sort of anticipating where that was going to be. And then hopefully, oh, I hit the AI there. Unfortunately, the AI, if you get good laps, they get in the way lap 3, because I'm actually lapping the AI. So they can, if you hit the AI, you just lose all the speed you gain from the that wall. So that's a bit unfortunate, but still, there's pretty good laps there. So now we're going to go into our first boss fight. The structure of this game is that we have 4 regular races, and then we race a boss. The boss will choose a racetrack from the 4 you've just raced at. So this one we're going to be doing Rouge Tubes again, because it's obviously Ripperoo. So we're going to do this track again. So it's quite a straightforward track. It's not too much more to talk about. So I'll talk about the character selection with this game. Basically, there are 4 classes of characters that you can pick for adventure mode, and they are in pairs. So I'm playing as Coco, who is the acceleration character. There is Coco, then Engine is also the pair to Coco, so there's 2 acceleration characters. There's 2 fast characters, so Tiny and Dingo are classed as fast characters. They have the highest base speed stat. And then there is a balanced class, which is Cortex and Crash, where they just have balanced stats, where they have pretty much the same handling, acceleration, and speed. They're all the same stat. And then you have the handling class, which is the slowest class, which is Pura and Polar, and they just have a very high handling stat, the very low speed stat, so you don't really want to use them for speed runs. So I'm using Coco because she has a good balance of speed, but she also has good enough handling that you can still control her a lot more consistently than Dingo. And we've recently been working on strats for Dingo and Tiny, so the fast characters, and it would be optimal to use them. For a marathon, I'm just picking Coco for the moment until I do sort of learn Dingo a bit more, potentially in the future, but Dingo is a lot more difficult because the fast characters have the maximum base speed stat, but they sacrifice handling, so basically they have the lowest handling stat. And these Hub 1 tracks are a lot faster if you have a poor handling stat, because when you go into a drift, your cart naturally turns to the side you're facing, but you can actually drift almost in a straight line if you have poor enough handling. So that's why Dingo and Tiny, as well as having just a high base speed stat, their low handling actually makes it so that driving tracks that don't have a lot of corners actually makes those tracks a lot quicker. But I could say it saves about 10 to 20 seconds. Obviously, it's one of those things that's very hard to sort of measure, because Dingo and Tiny will save time on some tracks, but they might lose time on other tracks. So we haven't quite got a rough figure, but we're sort of thinking 10 to 20 seconds for that. But yeah, with Coco, she also has the highest acceleration stat. But acceleration doesn't really mean too much in this game. There's only 1 or 2 places where it does, but her speed stat and her lower handling stat basically just make her the second best choice for this category. If you have characters like Crash, even though he has a decent speed stat, he overturns too much, so you end up taking bad not getting straight lines. So here we're going to be doing the first track where we sort of see some significant RNG affecting the run. Basically, I can pick up items from crates. I very rarely use the items unless it's an item that I can just throw out of the way, because basically the AI won't hit my items if they're in an odd place, and I don't really need to hit the AI because I'll probably lap them on this track. So I use the items on this track to actually open the shortcut here. So if I can throw an item forward, which I can with this potion, it opens up this gate, and that saves me going all the way around the outside of that track, which saves about 2 seconds per lap. So I just picked up a nitro. That's an example of an item I can't use because I can't throw a nitro forward, because I need an item I can throw forward to open the door. So there's a quick speed ghost again there, just across the grass, so I can get it downhill, and I do some froggies across the grass, just some hops. Okay, it's actually really good for a marathon. I got all 3 shortcuts. You can lose, like I say, you can lose 2 seconds for every time you don't take that shortcut, which doesn't seem a lot, but for a game like this, if I don't get the shortcut at all, I would lose 6 seconds, and 6 seconds in a kart racer is just far too much to feasibly lose. So you don't want to be getting sort of 0 out of 3 in a run. That is potentially a reset if you're at a high level. So again, another basic track coming up here. So the first 8 tracks we have to listen to Aku talking, but we can just skip that cutscene. Unfortunately, we have to listen to the first part of it, but we can skip it as soon as it lets us. So I haven't discussed the version differences. I'm running on the NTSC-U version of the game, which is the American release. You can viably use the PAL version as well, which is obviously the European and Australian release. And basically the big difference between a lot of NTSC and PAL, the difference is the frame rate. And PAL runs at 25 frames a second, whereas NTSC runs at 30. But Naughty Dog were quite good when they developed the Crash games, because they actually incorporated a speed up for PAL. so that even though the game physically runs slower, the gameplay is the same or similar speed to NTSC. So they did the same with CTR. So actually you can be competitive with PAL because the developers cared enough to make PAL the same speed as NTSC. But unfortunately you do lose time to load screens, and any time where you play like an animation in the hub world, like when we open the big door with the key, that would be slower. If you enter a track, that's also slower on PAL. So there's lots of minor things that PAL loses out on, simply because it's running at a lower frame rate, so all the animations are slower. But the big gameplay difference is that PAL has hops of 23. So if you look at the bottom, there's a little number that adds, that counts up. So that counts my airtime. So when I'm just doing these hops, on NTSC I can do 26 hops just on straight ground, which you'll see here. Whereas on PAL, you have hops of 26 on NTSC. Your hops on PAL are 23. So you have smaller jumps, and you might think that will actually be good for a racing game, so you don't want to be too high in the air. But it actually makes a lot of the shortcuts more difficult, which we're going to come on to one of the shortcuts, which is definitely a lot more difficult if you're playing on PAL than NTSC. So the main thing that, because PAL loses time gradually over the run because it does unfortunately load slower and run slower. So even though the gameplay is the same, everything else is slower. But PAL has what we call the language glitch. So on the language selection menu, if you just press triangle and you don't select a language, the game just thinks this is okay, and it loads the game in a weird state where it doesn't actually load any languages. So there's no text on screen, there's no spoken voice lines, so you can't hear any of the voice lines from the characters. But it actually skips a cutscene later in the run, which saves about 20-something seconds. So that's how PAL sort of stays up with NTSC, because it has the language glitch, as well as a few other things it saves on. So we're in Pappy's Pyramids at the moment. This is the first track, like I said, that has an unintended shortcut, which developers clearly didn't want you to take. So this pillar jump here is intended, this was put into the game, but then if we land on here, and then we're going to drive over here, and then we're going to jump onto this wall. So basically that wall you're not supposed to drive on, and you can tell you're not supposed to drive on there because the developers coded the wall in such a way that when you drive on it, it's actively trying to push you back onto the track. So the game's like, hang on, you're not supposed to be on that wall, I'm going to push you back to where you're supposed to be. So you have to adjust your car a lot to make sure that you don't actually fall off. So hopefully you get it all 3 times, and then you just land in front of the finish line. If you jump over the finish line, your lap doesn't count because it thinks you've landed at the start of the track. So you have to make sure you land before the finish line, or else you'll have to redo your lap again. It'll just put you in last place. So it's definitely important to keep that in mind. This is a big repoint for new runners as well. It's quite a difficult shortcut to get down, especially if you want to do sort of the shortcut on the pillar into the wall jump, which is a lot more difficult than just going for the single shortcut. So we find a lot of new runners sort of find that track a lot. That's their sort of first big hurdle in the run. So we're going to come to a lot more of a relaxed track here. There are some more cycles. So these armadillos, they roll across the track, and they are usually in quite a consistent cycle. Because luckily in this game, a lot of the cycles are reset when you load the track. So these guys are always on the same cycle as long as I sort of start the track immediately and then just go into an attempt. So for an 80% run, this is fine. So we know where they'll be. There's a little shortcut here, so I'm going to get a downhill from that. Just hop across the dirt, and that cuts that corner. You'll notice now I've lost my speed out the back of my exhaust. That's because I didn't have enough reserves. So that's sort of, I have to do this section a lot slower, unfortunately. But should be fine. Those armadillos are still in a cycle. They don't hit me too often as long as I keep a good cycle, but it is possible that they obviously can. So unfortunately it was a bit of a slow lap, but that's okay. So we're going to get another skip across the dirt. And then again, this hill gives us speed. Then we want to sort of clip that bit, because then that gives us what we call a propulsion. So you can actually get propulsions in this game from ramps. So if you do a hop onto a ramp and then a second hop off it, we call a propulsion. The kart pushes you forward, and the game pushes you forward a little bit, which is what we do here. So we do a hop, and then we get pushed forward. It's a very small time save, but because it's so easy to do, it's just a free strat that we just go for. So now we're going to be entering the second boss, which is Papu Papu, some of the best jiggle physics in video game history. If you haven't seen the PAL run of this game, I definitely recommend checking it out, because there is the language glitch that I mentioned before. Does some cool things with the cutscenes where it actually swaps around the heads of the bosses. Not sure why it does that, but if you ever want to check the PAL run out, I definitely recommend checking the leaderboards and finding, I think the world record's on PAL at the moment, so you can check that out. It's pretty cool. So again, we're going to be doing Papu's Pyramids, obviously Papu's track, Papu's Pyramids. Papu is one of the more annoying boss races, so I've got ahead of him, which is fine. He will stay behind me for the entire track. That's not a problem. But he is going to be throwing down potions onto the track. So lap 1 shouldn't be too much of an issue. Oh, that was close. Okay. So lap 2 won't be an issue, but you can see he's starting to throw potions down on the track. And then those potions will be there on lap 3, because unfortunately Papu doesn't drive fast enough. But I start catching up with him on lap 3, and yeah, his potions are going to get in the way. So hopefully it's not going to cause me too much of an issue. Oh, I didn't even see that potion. I'm playing on a black and white TV, and that potion was just merged into the background. I did not see that one at all. So that's unfortunate, but we can just do that shortcut again. So this is a bit of a problem. Newen can confirm I can't see those potions. Luckily, they just sort of exploded. There's a limit on the amount of items that can be on the track. So I don't know what the limit is, but there can only be a certain amount. And then when Papu starts throwing down more, it just destroys the oldest one that he throws onto the track. So that's how we sort of catch up with him, and then he starts throwing down. But they actually start exploding the more we drive. But yeah, I genuinely didn't see that potion. It was just sort of a blur of white. But that's fine. I managed to recover it. I only lost about 5 seconds. So now we're going to be going to hub 3. So hub 2 is probably, I would say hub 2 is the easiest hub for me, and then hub 1 is a bit more difficult than hub 2. Now we're going to go into hub 3, which is definitely the most difficult hub in the game, in my opinion. I think a lot of other runners would agree with me. So we're going to just open this door. Again, as I was saying, this is a quicker cutscene on NTSC than it is on PAL, so this is a bit quicker for us. So the first track in hub 3 is Blizzard Bluff. This is pretty much where most runs just come to die. I was going to snow track, so it's going to be 90% white snow just everywhere, which is really nice. But this is also the first track that features, the first and only track, for some reason, that has a global cycle. So basically, a global cycle is a cycle that keeps going as long as the game's running. So I don't know where this boulder is going to be at any given point, because it's always different. Luckily, it's another point we can work with. So I'm going to jump over these hills, and I'm going to go onto this snow. Hopefully I get this jump. So what we're going to do here is jump that. Oh, that did make it. So what I did there is I jumped onto the snow, and then I got a propulsion jump, which jumped me over the fence. And that saves, it doesn't save too much time. It saves probably not even 5 seconds, given that. But if you do it wrong, it's a flat 10 seconds that you lose, because you have to drive back onto the track. So hopefully we don't see that, because this is a 10-second time loss in a single track is pretty much a run dead at this level. You can carry on, but I generally just reset if I do a shortcut wrong on this track. Lost my fire again. I'm not keeping my reserves too well. Fortunately, again, with playing in black and white, I can't see the boost bar very well, so usually I'd keep an eye on that just to make sure I'm doing full mini turbos. Oh, get bad IO. So I'm going to do the safe way there. Usually if I hit an AI, I'm just not going to go for it because it knocks my angle. So there is a slow way where you can just drive onto the snow and then just do a single jump. It loses about a second though, so the quicker way where I will jump and then do a second propulsion across the fence. So now we're going to come into Dragon Mines. Again, this is another track that heavily relies on cycles. But these are cycles I know where they're going to be again. So as long as I don't make a mistake during this level, I will know where the minecarts are, and they shouldn't be in my way. So here's hoping to that. So I'm going to start off with just this big downhill. Oh, I got really annoying AI. The AI gets start boosts completely randomly. Some will get start boosts, some won't, and the AIs that got start boosts for the ones that just decided to drive in my path is a little annoying. So we're going to take this corner here, then we're going to go jump through this minecart track, and then come out of here. So we actually do that shortcut a lot quicker than I think the developers intended, because the minecart is classed as off-road, so you drive really slowly through there, and then the minecart that's going across the track can just run you over, and obviously you don't want to be run over by that. It will lose a lot of time. But we can take it hopefully with this full speed. Oh, I did the corner slightly late. That's a bit annoying. Oh, God's sake. Because I got the bad line and exiting that, I fell down the lower track. That's not something I should be doing. I should know to fix that. But I got a bad angle into the shortcut and hit the wall, so I didn't keep my speed. It is very precise to get that shortcut. Unfortunately now, because I've made that mistake, I don't know where this minecart's going to be. So this is going to be an issue. If it's in the way, I can't take the shortcut. It's just quicker to go around. Also, losing that speed is not good. Okay, this is perfect cycle. So I'll just follow it back in there. So unfortunately, it's suboptimal dragon mine. So I lost quite a lot of time actually here, but I still managed to get the shortcut down. There's also a cool thing here where you have to make sure you drive over the line. If you hop near the line, you can actually jump over it, like in Papu's Pyramids, and your lap won't count. And that pretty much is you have to reset the track at that point. So we're coming to my probably least favorite track is Polar Pass. I think a lot of people actually think it's their favorite, but I'm not a fan of this. Again, we're going to have some more unintended shortcuts to pull off. But it's definitely one I've had a lot of trouble with. Maybe this will be the first marathon I get 3 out of 3. Because I have a track record of getting 2 out of 3 in all the marathons I run this game at. So hopefully this will be the big exception for me. So we're going to get Wumper. We can get Wumper really early on this track. Some of the later tracks they just have Wumper crates everywhere, which is really nice. So there's this heel cycle there. Again, they're consistent, but he might get in the way later on. So we're going to drift here, turn around, and we're going to hit this wall, and then we're going to land on that part of the shortcut. So what I did there is I turned around to get a boost from the boost pad. You don't have to, but the quicker way to do it is very inconsistent, and it saves only about 3 seconds for each time. So it is a nice time save, but it's not something I've ever been consistent with, so I usually just take the time loss there. And honestly, not many runners go for it. There's only 1 or 2 that do, and I don't think the world record goes for it. I don't remember. So again, I'm going to be hopefully getting that again. So what I'm basically doing is when I turn around is I hit the boost pad and gives me speed, and then I just do a drift. So I drift, keep that speed, and I want to hit the top of that wall. I could have maybe made that. That's a bit unfortunate. I might have made that if I just went straight. Usually I play it, it's slower to just go straight, where you can cut the corner a little bit more. Because you can get a really good landing and get a really fast landing into a drift, which is the most optimal way of doing it. But it does rely on getting a good jump. If you don't get it, if you get too much height and you go too high up, you won't get enough distance and you'll just fall down, which is what happened there. Or you can just miss and not hit the wall properly, which is a real pain to deal with. But yeah, you can see the time at the top. I've lost about 10 seconds missing that shortcut again, so that's pretty much a dead run at that point. I couldn't carry a run on that. Loses too much time like that. So hopefully we can get it 2 out of 3. Okay, there you go. Marathon consistency, 2 out of 3 every time. I also didn't mention these seals, again, consistent. This jump, you can just sneak through that wall. So even if you don't get a high jump, you can just go through there and you should be fine. But that's a bit of a difficult jump to do casually, because a lot of the intended shortcuts in this game rely on you jumping really late off a ramp. But again, a lot of the mechanics aren't really explained to you, so you have to jump really late, and that actually gives you a higher jump. So now we're entering Tiny's arena. This is the longest track in a speedrun in this game. Each lap is over a minute long, So it's going to be a full 3 minutes of the same track. The next longest track, I think, is probably Polar Pass, which I was just in. So it's about a 15-second difference. Well, over 15-second difference between this track and like the next fastest track, next slowest track. Sorry. So there's going to be a lot of super small mechanics we're doing here. So a lot of it relies on hitting these hills and then just getting a propulsion forward off the hill. So here we're going to get forward, and we land on the bottom of that hill. Get speed. So we want to land, we don't jump off hills with speed, and then land on the downhill part of the hill, because then that gives us a little more speed. Just because it's downhill, the game gives you a bit more speed. Not enough that you can actually keep, but it's still worth just getting those downhills. Here we're going to just jump on this one, hopefully on that one. Ooh, didn't quite get the jump there. But you want to jump on both of those. Again, you just get propulsions forward. It's really important. I'm going to just get this bumper crate. Obviously, being a 3-minute track, bumper is super important, so we just collect it wherever you can. Also, a thing to mention, oh my, I'm losing fire a lot. I think it's because I'm not seeing my boost counter. Playing in black and white is a little more difficult than I thought it'd be, but it's okay. With just a little bit of time loss. So, I may opt to do shorter drifts in some places, like here. So if you do shorter drifts, shorter mini turbos, so it gives me less reserves. Usually you don't run out of reserves on this track. Obviously I'm not quite hitting the maximum ones. Really not starting to notice that now. But if you do short MTs, again I'll do short ones here, that gives you a tighter turn. Because every time you do a mini turbo, it actually pushes your car sort of the direction you're turning, just enough to make it worth doing shorter ones. So you get a tighter turn if you do short turbos. I'm just going to do a long one there because I'm just a bit worried about how much reserves I've got. So again, let's just do a little jump there. Again, you can jump up hills, it's a little bit faster. And because at this end section, this corner is super tight, so I'm actually going to do what we call a U-turn. So if I hold the down arrow while I'm turning and press square, I do a really sharp turn. Obviously, because I press square, I'm actually losing my fire. But that's fine because we can get it back in pretty much immediately. So it's quicker there to sort of lose all our speed to then just gain it back immediately. So there's a very few times where it's worth doing that. Hopefully we can get a good lap 3 at least. These laps have not been too great, but they're definitely workable in a run. I hope to, that's bad. You want to try and not land in that mud. The mud obviously slows you down. So if you land in the mud, you're going to lose a bit of time. Really try not to hit it there, because you want to jump over it. You have to have enough speed to do that. So again, getting short mini turbos here, jump up this. Oh. Sometimes you go for a drift and you don't get one, because if you sort of land and you're not pressing a direction, that's really odd. I hit the wall. Shouldn't have done that. But sometimes you can sort of land and go for a drift, but you don't get one. That was a terrible Tiny's arena, but never mind. Unfortunately, it looks okay during a run. I mess up. So if you're playing on the PAL version, this cutscene is completely skipped, so you don't actually watch this at all. As soon as Tiny's arena finishes, you just enter the boss immediately. So the length of this cutscene is like the primary time save on the PAL version. But even skipping this cutscene entirely is not enough for PAL to be the fastest version for this game. So we're going to be doing Dragon Mines again. Hopefully I can pull it off a bit better than I did last time. Maybe redeem myself a little bit. Joe, again, is a very annoying boss to race against, because he throws down nitro crates, but he also throws TNTs into the air. So when I was saying earlier about how there's a limited amount of items that can be on the track at one point, Joe only drops some nitros randomly, and he also just throws TNTs into the air. If he throws a TNT into the air, that's a bit of a mouthful. If he throws it into the air, then it doesn't class as it spawning on the track, so it doesn't add to the amount of items on the track. So he actually starts throwing out nitros that are going to be scattered along, and there's a good chance that one might be in the way. Because the same idea as when we did the Papu race. Because he's not throwing enough items down and he's not driving fast enough, I start catching up with him. That was really close. That was the minecart just flickering across the screen. I keep losing fire, and it is because, unfortunately, I can't see my boost meter very well. So hopefully there's no nitro. There's the one spot that the nitro can be in. Luckily it wasn't further to the right. So I always take that line a bit safer because that is always there. Not always there, but it could be there. Okay, I wish we got a fast shortcut. There we go. So you can just go straight through there with full speed. I'm just going to take the speed to the end. So we're just going to jump up this hill. We don't need to do drifts because we're at the end of the track. So that's the end of hub 3. So now we've only got one more hub left. So there's quite a few mistakes in hub 3 that I made, unfortunately, but that's why it is considered the hardest hub to do. But hub 4 is also really difficult, especially starting out, because it relies on you being able to get reserves to do some tricks. And as I've been complaining that I can't get reserves, this will be an interesting race, a few courses. So we're going to head on over to hub 4. I really like the design and the music of hub 4. Definitely my favorite hub to play. But we're going to start introducing a new mechanic in all the hub 4 tracks. I guess the developers had an idea that they wanted to put into this game, and they put it into every single track in hub 4. So first we're going to enter engine labs. So the mechanic that they put in the game is what they called a super turbo pad. And what that means is that it's a regular boost pad, but it just works a little differently. So what I'm going to do on this start of the track, can I get that? Oh, I can get that one crate. Sometimes the AI pick that up, but got lucky there. So I'm going to just build up some of these reserves just on this part of the track. Just get both bumper crates. And go over this ramp. Now I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do a landing boost, but I get this insane amount of speed. So basically when I go over that turbo pad, it gives me a bunch of speed. And as long as I have reserves, I keep that speed. So I want to build up reserves pretty much throughout this entire track. So I'm going to get that boost pad, even though it's a little out of the way. And then just hopefully build up reserves here. Cut that corner a little bit and just get some boost. And then again, we're going to hit the same boost pad as we did before. So we have this insane amount of speed. And I keep the speed as long as I don't overwrite it with another boost, or if I run out of reserves. So I'm going to take this corner. So it's now I've lost that speed because I went over a different boost pad, but I still have reserves. Now I can do the exact same. So we've got reserves, so we're just going to take that ramp again. So we're going to go back into the boost tunnel. So it's really important that I do good drifts here, just to keep that speed, because that speed is the maximum amount of speed you can have in this game. There's no other speed that is higher than that. So that's why it's really important that we keep it as long as possible. Obviously, being a speedrunner, we want to keep that speed. It's a bit easier to do this in this track. The next track we'll be doing some of the same, but it's a lot more difficult to get the speed in that one and keep your speed. Again, hopefully I don't hit any walls. If I hit a wall, I lose all the speed I get. So actually I got a bit of a propulsion there. It looked a bit weird, but actually, I got a lot of speed off that too. So I can actually, I didn't quite have enough reserves for that. But you can actually just not do any drifts and just get another bunch of speed from that ramp again. So this last lap there isn't too much of a focus on reserves because we don't need to carry the speed all the way up to the first boost pad. We just need to carry it to the line because it's lap 3. But I still usually do the same lines anyway. You can also take the big jump here, but it's just quicker to go to that one. It's a better racing line, and again we're just gonna hit a nitro for style. So that's the fun mechanic there. The developers, they've put a super turbo pad in every single track in this hub. So we're going to see the same in this track. Unfortunately, we don't see the use of the boost pad in all the tracks. We only see it in these two. Because the later tracks, we're going to start doing some cool shortcuts. So this is Cortex Castle. This is probably the most difficult one for just keeping your reserves. So hopefully I can keep them as much as possible. I'm going to get that wumper just behind that spider, so I want to do a jump here. So again, getting lots of landing boosts, getting lots of drifts where I can. Making sure that bar at the bottom is as full as possible, so I get the most amount of reserves. Because as I explained earlier, reserves, I gain them every time I do any sort of boost. So these mini turbos are giving me reserves. If I go over this boost pad, this will give me some more as well. So keep building them up. I just shoot this bomb, we don't need it. So And then we're just going to skip this corner, and then we're going to jump on this pad. So this pad, I'm not going to do a jump at the end of that ramp as well, because if I get a landing boost, I lose my speed. So hopefully I'm going to keep this speed until the first ramp, which I did. And then you get a nice... Oh, I think I just lost it as I went onto the ramp. That's how tight it is. So even though I did relatively good boost, if I did it slightly better, I could have kept that speed. Fortunately, if you lose reserves off that ramp, the first part of this track is a lot more slower as well. So it's super important just for keeping the speed for the next part of the track. Again, we're just this little corner cut here. So you can cut that corner quite a lot and then cut this one again. So cut that there. You can cut between that spider and the wall, so even if the spider's there, I'm going to go for that. So that actually kept my speed, so you can see how much of a difference that made. So I got a nice jump off the ramp, lots of speed, and I've got a load of speed now, so I don't need to hit this ramp over here. I'm just going to cut this corner, because I don't need to hit that ramp for lap 3. I don't need to keep the speed all the way across the finish line. I'm just going to get this one just in case, just to top up. Again, I'm not going to bother too much. Now I'm just going to same again, and then we've got a shield, which is really handy because I can just be a bit lazy with this. I mean, just go through the spider, it doesn't hurt us with a shield, and then so you see my reserves actually did run out there because I didn't focus on them. They ran out on the line instead of on the first ramp, so that's how much of a difference it makes. Okay. So we're coming into Hot Air Skyway, which is where we start getting some more difficult unintended shortcuts that I think a lot of new runners really struggle with. I do always recommend, if you do pick this game up, don't focus on the hard shortcuts to start with, just get your ability to drive consistently. That's more important than doing the shortcuts. So what we're going to do here, so we're going to... Cortex is going to be really annoying. This very rarely happens. So we're going to go up here, so we're going to come over here and we're going to turn around. And then we're just going to cut this corner because we can. So we're going to pick up this one for crate. So we're going to hit this part and then we're going to jump down here. So what I just did there is I loaded part of the track because if you played a kart racer before, basically when you get tracks like this that are all sort of all over the place and you can jump to lower parts of the track, the developers stop you skipping ahead by putting sort of like a checkpoint system. So how the checkpoints work in this game is that you sort of drive part of the track, and then the more of the track you drive, the more you load on the other side. So basically, I want to try and optimally not load too far because I don't need to, and it's slower to go down too far. But I still want to go about here, and then I can just take this jump again. So I want to hopefully land down here. If I try and just do this shortcut normally, none of this... Okay, there we go. So if I don't load enough track, I just get picked up by Aku. If you don't load any of the track, you'll just land down and immediately get picked up, and it won't put you back. It will put you back where you started. So it's really important that you do just load that part of the track, just so that when you jump down, you don't get picked up by Aku. And that shortcut saves about 5 seconds. I'm completely skipping over the other shortcut that we're doing as well. It's become second nature, that one, so it's a pretty common one. So the other shortcut, you might have seen it as a kid as well. It's a bit obvious to sort of work out. So we get this first one. Hopefully get all 3 shortcuts down, jump, down. Ooh, that's a big jump actually. So that was fine. So this shortcut here, we just go down here and then just sort of jump around, and then we just do a drift and get enough speed and do a U-turn. So you can just jump over that fence, and this part of the track is loaded. A bit of an oversight by the developers, I think. Maybe they didn't test it thoroughly enough, so they thought you couldn't take that shortcut, but you actually can. So yeah, you just have to go down and take the ramp so you can jump over the fence. So that's probably one of the most difficult tracks if you're learning the game, definitely, because it's so difficult to get used to those shortcuts unless you sort of know how to do them. So now we're coming into just on let's go coming into Oxide Station. So this is probably the most difficult track in the game for a lot of runners. This is the track that I practice the most, but even then it's still really difficult to pull off 3 out of 3. So we're going to be doing some more, again, unintended shortcuts. So hopefully we don't get annoying AI. That could be annoying, but it should be fine. So I'm going to drift onto this wall and just brake, and I'm going to jump down here. So now we're at the further part of the track, and I'm going to come back on myself. Oh, hello, engine. So I unfortunately hit an AI. I do try and dodge them, but didn't get lucky there. So I'm going to jump on this wall. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh my god, that just happened. That's a bit frustrating. Again, that's a dead run if that happens. So I'm just going to jump onto this part of the track. You can see I've just shot straight into first. So I've actually skipped a lot of the track. It's really unfortunate that I fell down there. Messing up this shortcut just loses an incredible amount of time. So if you have a run alive at this point, it's just you have to do this. You have to get this shortcut perfectly, or else your run's just dead. So hopefully we can do it properly again. So yeah, that actually lost me 10 seconds. That messing that up. Well, actually over 10 seconds, about 13 seconds. So land again, get the boost pad. It's really important that we land in front of that boost pad, because again we want to load more of the track and then jump down here. And then this is another unintended shortcut. Again, that is a big oversight by the developers. You can just jump over that ramp and then you just jump to the lower part of the track. If I show you the map, so we're going to drive on the top half of the map, but the bottom two parts of the track, the one on the left and the one on the bottom right, we don't actually go to at all. We just skip all of that. So that's how much this shortcut actually saves. It's pretty big. This first one saves, I think, 10 seconds a lap, and I don't even know how much the other shortcut saves, because I've always done that shortcut when I've ran this game. It was one of the shortcuts I actually learned. So I've never actually done laps where I took the other route. But it's probably more than 10 seconds this one saves. So luckily we got a good lap 2 and 3. There are some speed ghosts that we can get here, some downhill, so I want to get downhill here and then jump up this hill. I didn't quite get enough speed off that one, so we're not going to try and carry it on. And then there's another one here, if you go down this hill correctly. Okay, I did get that one, and you can get a bit of speed up there. So that was actually pretty decent apart from the first lap, unfortunately. Getting 40-second laps is a really strong goal for runs that I usually aim for. You can get 39 laps as well. But yeah, it's using the same principle of just loading the part of the track, so that when you do the shortcut, the game doesn't try and pick you up for being in the wrong part of the track. So we've got Pinstripe. He's one of my favourite characters. I'm not sure if they've got the audio fixed. Unfortunately, we had some audio issues, but basically his character is that he will save the world as long as someone pays him to do so. So he's a bit of an asshole, but he is the second best driver. Well, he's the best driver in the world at the moment, and we're going to try and hopefully beat him. As far as boss AIs go, we got a start boost. It's incredibly rare that he gets a start boost. That's super rare, like less than 1 in 10 I'd say he gets a start boost. But it should be fine. So we're going to just turn around. So Pinstripe is a bit annoying because he shoots bombs backwards, but as long as I don't mess up, I shouldn't hopefully see him for the rest of the track. So again, we're going to be seeing the same tracks done again for the next couple of races, so it's nothing new to explain. But yeah, Pinstripe is not too bad of a boss AI, because he doesn't put anything on the track in my way. So we do lap Pinstripe, so that's how much time this shortcut saves. We're lapping a boss on their track. But as long as we don't make any mistakes, we won't be in a position where he can shoot bombs at us. So back down there, and then hopefully we can get this again. So to just do this shortcut, I actually do 2 U-turns, which sounds a bit weird. The mechanic to U-turn just means that I can stick to the track, and then I can do another one just to finish the shortcut, and I do U-turn there. So the game doesn't explain the U-turn mechanic, and braking on its own is a really useless thing in this game. So you can just brake and actually keep going the same direction. So braking is not that useful in this game. But if you brake and hold the down arrow and get a U-turn, that is really useful, because you can take corners super sharply. So again, I haven't made any mistakes, so we might see Pinstripe down here, but hopefully it won't be a problem. So as long as I get this and then land down there. So Pinstripe is on the part of the track we're going to skip, so we're going to hopefully get this shortcut with no problems. And so we've just lapped Pinstripe. We don't see him at all. If you make a mistake, you actually have to follow him at this part of the track. So this is where you can get hit by bombs quite easily. So that's why you don't want to make any mistakes on this track, because it is really easy to just snowball and just get hit by a ton of bombs trying to do the end part of the track. So we've now got one more race to do, which is nitrous oxide. So I forgot to warn the tech at the last marathon when the time comes up, but the time's up when I finish this track, so I will announce a bit closer as well. So we've got a race oxide. Basically, he's the big alien who's going to enslave the planet. He's just going on about how great of a racer he is and how he's going to beat us, whatever. He wants to beat us fair and square, but as we're going to see in the next 5 seconds, that's complete rubbish. So Oxide, in his wonderful nature, he cheats, he just starts early, and he gets rubber banding, so he is not going to hit me. Okay, so he gets a different speed. Weirdly enough, he gets a different speed at the start of the track, so he can go really fast, and I don't see him at all. He can go really slow, which he did there, or he can sort of go in between, and he's in my way when I go for that shortcut, which is really annoying, because this is the last track, and you don't want to be hitting the AI, going for a very difficult shortcut, and losing your run on the last track because Oxide drove a little faster than he should have. I didn't really mention about rubber banding. There is rubber banding in this game, it's just very weak. That's why we're just lapping the AI all the time, and pretty much going to lap Oxide as well, as long as I don't make any mistakes. Hopefully we can do this shortcut again. That is a really useful item, okay? So the cool thing about this game is it's not too RNG heavy, but the last boss is a complete RNG mess. Oh, no, that's annoying. I could have made it, maybe if I U-turn a bit. So let's go for it again. Okay, that's fine. Luckily, if you fail it that way, you can just get another try. You just keep going round and round and round forever. So you just land on the track you were on. So basically, as I was saying about RNG, Oxide throws potions, and there may be potions on the track that are going to block the shortcut so I can't really take it. So hopefully that isn't the case, but I do have a shield. I'm going to assume I can't see the potions again, so we're going to just pop it now. Oh, I can sort of see them. I'm just going to drive into it because we have a shield. Why not? So if I was in a regular run, I'd have to do some sort of maneuvering to get around those potions, because if I hit the potion, I can't take the shortcut. So oh, I didn't see that. I can do this. Okay, you can take that shortcut down there as well. It's a little slower. It's a bit of a backup in case that happens. So we're on the last part of the track, so if tech want to get ready on time, so just got this corner here. So yeah, if you make a mistake, those potions will be there when you come to race Oxide, but we have just lapped him, so we don't have to worry about the end. So last turn here, and time. So yeah, so that's ETR. We've now saved the world from nitrous oxide. He's not going to enslave us. He's not very happy about it, and then This podium plays at the end of every track, but you can just skip it by pressing start. So yeah, he's not very happy. And Coco saves the world. And Oxide flies back to Gazmoxia, a complete loser, as you see in this cutscene. So yeah, that's CTR. So if tech want to boot me off, that's completely up to them.
No, good run. Would you like to know how quick you were?
Yes, please.
52 minutes and 3 seconds.
Ooh, almost the 51, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry to have you playing here for like 4 hours before getting started. Right, we're going to transition into our hastily made intermission screen, if that's what